I mean, if you look at pension wealth in the UK, the top 10% of people who invest in pensions in Britain, they own about 64% of all private pension wealth. So it is quite kind of limited. I mean, there's about a third of people in the UK who don't have a pension at all. So I think those points are interesting. I wonder, though, what you think sort of specifically about whether, if mandation comes in for the UK, what that will mean for the business, whether, you know, if you're appealing to those pension investors, what it means if there has to be a focus on UK assets rather than something that Robinhood does now, of course, which is to try to help people a lot of the time invest in US stocks.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I think that generally speaking, people benefit from choice. I think customers don't like being told exactly what to invest in. And I think one of the problems with the current pension offerings here is that they're quite limited. Now, I also understand that there's policy objectives, and every conversation that I have here, whether it be with government or industry, people understand that it's important to have the UK markets and the London Stock Exchange listings, which have a storied history and have unfortunately been in decline over the past few decades, for them to be revitalized. And I think policy incentives can be introduced to do that, but I would probably stop short of mandating too many things, and in fact treat it as an incentive. I mean, there's no doubt that in general, pensions, or in the US, we have employer-sponsored 401ks can really drive participation and make a huge difference and be a great tool to improve people's savings, help them build wealth. So more can be done for sure, and I think it's pretty promising that, you know, we've been in the UK now through several administrations. They all pretty much seem to agree on this.
Good morning, Vlad. Like you were saying, investors benefit from choice. You've built this US retail investing giant on this, but people in the UK continually seem to choose property, cash savings, rather than stocks. How do you change that? You've been here a while. Why hasn't it been a success story in the UK the same way you are in the US?
Well, we've been doing very well in the UK. I think it's just a little bit earlier in our evolution. I mean, remember, it took 5 years for Robinhood to get to 10 million funded accounts in the US, and now Robinhood obviously is a very large company, close to 30 million funded accounts globally, and we're up to 1 million outside of the US. But it's very nascent, right? And we've had so much more time to compound our user base, compound assets in the US than in other markets. We've really invested in making the offering market leading in our home market. But the UK is very important for us as well. I mean, our name's Robinhood. The legend originated here. You can tell that the brand is growing, and we've never been first to market with our offerings. We're typically a company that comes into an established space, offering just better products at lower prices. And so over time, what we see is an acceleration of assets moving to our platform from the incumbents, and an acceleration in user growth. And that's what we're seeing. In the UK, we're at the point where the business is sustainable, and it's just about how quickly we could accelerate and invest in further growth.
Yeah. It's interesting. I'm going to come back to the Robinhood legend later on.
Oh, great.
But for now, because in terms, though, of that competition, I kind of mentioned it in the introduction, that there is competition, and that I know you've been working hard to build Robinhood in the UK, and you're hoping for more. JP Morgan's invested about £1 billion into Chase in the UK, which is a newer entry into the kind of app world. They've also opened up in Germany. They're looking to open up in Spain, in France, Italy, Netherlands, and elsewhere. Jamie Dimon was saying how he's jealous of Revolut, and that that JP Morgan's kind of targeting again Europe. How do you withstand the competition from the US banks who are also eyeing this market?
I mean, I think the US banks, their efforts in the UK are generally pretty nascent. I think, of course, there's the incumbent neobanks and neobrokers here, but they have a bit of a different approach than us. I mean, if you think about Robinhood, what we uniquely stand for is ownership and, in particular, investing and equity participation. And I don't think anyone really focuses on that and has the products and the wonderful value proposition that we have when it comes to these things.
Do you think that there's any regulatory danger in offering investors an app that kind of pairs what are perhaps seen as lower risk, like index tracking, like US stock investments on the one hand, and then on the other hand, sort of much riskier proposals like perps that you're launching, like crypto, like prediction markets? Is there any regulatory danger in having that in one package aimed at retail investors?
Well, I think that regulators care about a few things. Well, chiefly, the most important thing is to make sure customers understand what's being offered to them. And so, we make sure that we're communicating who the different products are regulated by. And, in particular, not to make it sound like crypto, for instance, is subject to the same protections like SIPC or FDIC insurance. And, as we're getting into products that offer maybe the same underlying value proposition, it becomes even more important. So, for example, we announced and launched Robinhood Earn, which is a stablecoin powered lending product. So you can lend your dollar stablecoin, and right now we help customers generate a 7% APY, which is industry leading. But it's also important to understand it's not an FDIC insured savings and checking product. We have insurance, but we had to really innovate and create a new offering with Lloyd's of London and Realm to make sure customers do get sort of TradFi protection for these new stablecoin powered products. So I think that's important. I think a lot of smaller, offshore, unscrupulous players try to blur the distinction. I think that can be very dangerous when you make it seem like, the crypto-powered products sound like they're FDIC insured, and I do think that the regulators should be rightfully paying attention to that. But it being in one app, I don't think that's very relevant, especially nowadays when everything is on one phone. So it's very easy to just tap another button and you get a completely different product. So I don't think we should be looking at it on an interface level.
Vlad, what I think makes it relevant is we are looking to get sort of massive moves in the cost rate, right? And I think what makes your app so enticing is you've spent a lot of this conversation trying to talk about changing the European investors' appetite for risk. And how will it work if there is an AI bubble going on and some of these investors start seeing like double-digit downturns? Will they stay on your app if we start to see that bubble pop?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of those things that, again, differentiates Robinhood because we care about ownership and we try to align our products and services to maximize that ownership over time. And, if you're someone that, and we try to appeal and incentivize that behavior, and ownership is like a lifelong thing, 50 to 60 years. So our customers don't really focus too much on what's happening. I mean, of course we have active traders that take advantage of opportunities, but by and large, our long-term investors have a long outlook, and that's why you see them actually taking advantage of downturns in the market and being net buyers, unlike the customers of other brokerage firms.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that's something we've seen in markets, certainly with we've got data for US retail investors showing that they have been doing that recently, at least. Vlad, I was just tapping away to find your net worth, if I can be so bold, $5.5 billion, according to the Bloomberg Rich List. And that's why I want to come back to the Robinhood name, of course. Yes, rooted in English folklore, 1377. I had to look it up. That's the earliest mention of a Robin Hood figure. It got me thinking about philanthropy. Is that something that you believe in? Is there a model of philanthropy that you'd be interested in? I just think about that enormous wealth, about Buffett, about Gates. I mean, would your model be McKinsey Scott, something else? Have you thought about that?
Well, I think one thing to note is my net worth is by and large in Robinhood shares.
Sure.
And so, philanthropy at this point in my business journey is a little bit more challenging because I would have to sell my shares in the company. And of course, that has all kinds of like control and voting rights implications that probably we don't need to spend too much time getting into, but
philosophical question more than practical,
but I do believe
maybe.
in it, and we do engage in some philanthropy, taking into account liquid resources. But one thing I'm very passionate about is the Trump Accounts initiative in the U.S. and that's increasingly becoming a primary philanthropy vehicle, and the product and the value proposition is continuing to evolve. To remind folks that might not be familiar, what this does is the Trump Accounts initiative creates a brokerage account for every newborn child, starting at age 0. And children born in the last few years also get a $1,000 kickstart funded by Treasury. Now, in addition to that, we've seen lots of corporate philanthropy. Michael Dell and the Susan Dell Foundation have contributed billions of dollars. Ray Dalio, companies are starting to contribute, including Robinhood, of course, to the Trump accounts of newborns from employees. And you're seeing more and more grassroots movement on that.
Yeah.
And there have been reports of individuals or companies being interested in donating stock, which is currently not part of the program, but it's something that is being discussed. So we want to make it easier. Robinhood, in partnership with BNY and the Treasury, is serving as the sole initial brokerage and trustee behind the program. And really the goal is, can we both make it easy for everyone to become an owner in the great equity markets, but can we also make a great philanthropy vehicle so that it's as easy as possible on both sides, taking advantage and also being able to donate as easily as possible.